In an organization where there is empowerment, freedom to work, whether it's micromanaged or not, then that is something that we drive in a very strong, innovation-driven, digital-based culture. The best comes out if they are given the freedom to work. We being a 70-year-old bank, we have multiple generations working. You have the millennials, you even have baby boomers who have worked in the bank for almost 30 years. Normally, mentoring happens from the seniors to the juniors. But here we are talking about juniors mentoring also the seniors, and it goes both ways. Because that collaboration is extremely important. And that's where we differentiate us.
Hi everyone, and in the studio today I have with me Paduma Subasinghe, the Chief Human Resources Officer of DFCC Bank. Welcome, Paduma.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
The DFCC celebrates 70 years this year.
Yes.
So it makes it one of the oldest financial institutions in this country. You've seen it all. How is the banking sector, evolving in your view over the last 70 years, and also to the next 30, I'd say? And what do first the sector and then DFCC need to do to attract the right kind of talent for the industry?
I think if you look at the 70 years in banking, let me first tackle the industry and then come to DFCC. I think the industry, from a talent perspective, is not the top of mind employer.
But it wasn't always like that.
It wasn't always like that. And that is one of the key changes I see. I was in the industry, went out of the industry and came back into the industry. So I see that difference quite a bit, where the banking sector or the financial sector used to attract the best. And now we don't see that. And we don't see that at all, because people are also looking for a better work-life balance and also remote working and so on and so forth. And there are other industries which have come in who have taken that space as an employer. But saying that, now I see that there is also a bit of a growth of getting some good talent coming into the industry. If you look at the last 2-3 years with COVID and also with the economic downturn, we also had lost some good talent coming out and going out of the country, and that hit the banking industry very badly. But we also see them coming back and looking at opportunities and so on. So that's my initial take of the industry. DFCC, I'm quite proud to say, we have completed 70 years, started off as a development bank and now a fully fledged commercial bank with almost 138 branches, about 2,400 staff, and in a good place. And I must say, I mean, the last 2 years have been fantastic. We are having a good run rate this year also. I think the risk appetite also has improved. We've got the right people leading the bank. And I think that is pushing us to a right place, is my opinion about the industry and the bank itself.
One of the reasons why people join a bank is because, they can pursue a long-term career in the institution. They can grow with the bank, the industry, and the country as well. So what specific, policies has DFCC put in place to kind of, facilitate the growth of careers?
I think that's a very interesting question, because the intrinsic element is something that the Gen Zs and the millennials are looking at. What is the opportunity that they get also in the growth? And gone are the days where people will stay for 20 years, 15, 20 years to get a promotion. They're looking at fast tracking and so on and so forth. And that is something that we at DFCC are also trying to build. Get the right people, give them the opportunity to grow. And that is very important one is from a retention perspective, and also keeping them motivated to drive the challenging environments that we are in. And that is very important to say. And those are some of the policies that we are looking at. How do we build talent? How do we ensure that they get the opportunity to grow whilst growing that? And also, how do we empower the employees to drive what they have and also drive results in the organization? So we are looking at things like agility, we are looking at things like innovation and so on and so forth. And so all the policies that we are building need to be also agile as well as innovative, which gives opportunity for people to grow. And that's how I see DFCC different from the other banks, in the sense of we're looking at a future-proof team who is ready to take the future organization forward. And that means looking at futuristic skills, digitalization, innovation, and so on and so forth. Those things work extremely well to ensure that we achieve our targets and we are on the same growth trajectory that we're looking at. So if you look at how the main difference I see would be that, Imran.
Very interesting. Very interesting. If you take the workforce today, it's dominated by millennials, Zers, and then the alphas are coming in as well. And for them, maybe unlike yours and my generation, everything is about what's in it for me. So what are the core benefits of working for DFCC versus any other, not just bank, but any other industry?
One of the key factors how we would differentiate ourselves, as I did mention, it's a very fair question from the millennials which come, what's in for us? And so on. And there are two factors that they look at. One is absolute opportunity to work in an organization where there is empowerment, freedom to work, whether it's micromanaged or not. And then that is something that we drive in a very strong innovation-driven digital-based culture. And that is very important for us. And they look at the best comes out if they are given the freedom to work. The interesting part is that we being a 70-year-old bank, we have multiple generations working. You have the millennials, you even have baby boomers who have worked in the bank for almost 30 years. And us being for 70 years, now we be also celebrating the amount of commitment, the loyalty they're shown to the bank. And that is something very interesting. And one of the key things that we're also looking at is, as a policy, we are looking at how we can create some reverse mentoring. Normally, mentoring happens from the seniors to the juniors. But here we are talking about juniors mentoring also the seniors. And it goes both ways, where there is also sharing of information, sharing of the language they speak and so on, because that collaboration is extremely important. And that's where we differentiate ourselves. I mean, you have the extrinsic aspects of the salaries, the benefits, and I'm sure most banks have similar aspects of it. But it's mostly on the engagement part of it, ability to work with high empowerment, freedom. Because in the industry, us being in the financial industry, sometimes people are a bit skeptical and scared to, will empowering people create other issues? But we believe that if we don't empower and if we don't give the freedom to work, the element of creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship does not come out very strongly. And that is something that we differentiate ourselves. And anybody who joins the bank, that is how we make a unique selling proposition for our employees who join us. I hope I managed to answer that question.
You did. And just to tie on to that question, you're in a regulated industry. And with that, the amount of flexibility you can give employees, for example, to work from home, come in on certain days of the week only, and sometimes work very, very remotely from maybe even on an overseas holiday is limited because obviously you have, data privacy and other banking secrecy regulations, cybersecurity concerns. How are you addressing the balance between, regulatory requirements, but also the changing expectations of your workforce?
Yes, very interesting. I mean, yes, but there are a few pillars that we drive. Obviously, the people pillar that we drive as one of the key strategies. The other aspect is the digitalization and automation pillar. I'm just going to touch on the 4 key pillars that we work on. One is on the ESG, the sustainability pillar, and so on and so forth. And obviously, from a regulatory and compliance aspect, because we are highly regulated in that sense. And we also need to understand banking will be a brick and mortar driven operation for the foreseeable future. But through digitalization, we also have the ability for people to work remotely. It doesn't mean that we close down branches, but there are back offices, there are support functions which have the freedom to work remotely. And we the automation processes, the systems which we are now in use also support it. So unfortunately, there will be more front-ending roles which might not have that flexibility. You can't have a teller working it from home.
No, you can't. And also the cash has to be
Exactly. So until otherwise, we have a different method of doing it. But obviously, you have multiple support functions like compliance, risk, HR, marketing, and so on. Those functions do have that flexibility, and we have been very. DFCC, one thing I would want to say is also, we are not, in the absence of another, we are not clock watchers. We don't look at whether you come at 8:35. We just want productivity and ensure what has been given as responsibility and accountability is taken by individuals. And that's where it blends in very well with the freedom to work and the empowerment. Because we feel with the new generations of the millennials coming in, they would want that freedom, to be the best they can. And DFCC is creating or nurturing that culture of that, because one of our key values is also authenticity, and we would want our employees to be authentic, and that is very important for us.
Of course, and I think they value that as well.
Yes,
the ability to bring yourself, your true self to work and operate every day as well. Just want to move it to another direction. We've spoken extensively about what you do for existing employees, but banking is one of those industries where you pick people very young, and then you work with them, you grow with them, and they grow with you, and sometimes stay, as you said, 30 years plus in the industry. So what are the innovative strategies in terms of recruitment for both younger employees and also graduates and so on into DFCC?
So we have multiple channels of recruitment and multiple programs. We have something called a graduate training program, which we bring in graduates. It's a bit different to a management training program. The graduate trainees are brought in from universities or private institutions, which they come in, but they'll be focused on one key area. And because you might have people who would be interested in marketing, some people in treasury, some people in retail, some people in corporate. So it's a very focused program. And that's one pool that we try to create with clear demarcations and identifications for them to grow in those functions. But obviously, they would get that cross-functional. And then you have the management training programs, which they get cross-functional exposure. And that will be about a 1 to 2 year detailed program, which has different off-site programs, which has on-site development projects which have been given. And so that is about building leadership for the future. And obviously, you will have the normal recruitment processes, which will adapt for at junior most level. But the interesting part is each and every program, that recruitment program that we have a very customized development initiatives, development action plans set out for those groups to ensure that they enjoy what they do, number one, and ensure that the organization also gets a return on investment that we do. And so those are some of if you look at some of the leadership positions also are held by former management trainees and graduate trainees who have come in. So those are some of the top of mind programs that we have, because right now as a bank, we are going through a massive transformational process. We are building transformation. We are trying to see how we can make DFC the easiest bank to work with, the most customer-centric bank. So if we want to do all those things, we had to have the right people in the right seat with the right skill set. And that is something that we drive as a bank. And that's where the freedom and the empowerment all come in. But to give them to be empowered and to give them freedom to work, they also need to be competent. So that program supports us in that process.
One of the fears around careers in banking, particularly in the developed world, but is also quite prevalent in some of the developing countries, is that technology, particularly AI, will replace bankers. How do you see that unfolding, and how is your staff getting ready for that?
I think the word replace is the wrong word. In my opinion, it will create different jobs for people to have. Now, for example, we have our HR pod where an employee could call in or type in and identify some of the basic information that you would want. how do I get a letter or to the bank or to the embassies or the high commissions and so. So I would want one of the key factors that we also drive is using employees for value creation,
Right.
and using AI and so on to support them in the value creation. Now you have different AI tools which will support you to build, a presentation. You would spend so much of time building a presentation. You have more time to focus on the content. So the best of your creativity comes out, and AI would support you in that process. So I really don't think from a DFCC's perspective, we are re-looking at not replacing people with AI, but recreating jobs which will add and support the organization in their growth trajectory. And looking at AI, systems, technology to do the mundane day-to-day work, because that's where even the millennials and the future Gen Z is also looking at. They want to see, okay, how interesting, how much of impact am I making towards the overall bank's goals and the strategy. That is something that people are looking at. And I just want to touch one of the key things that we differentiate ourselves. Any person who comes into the organization or the bank should also understand how their role is impacting the overall strategy as well. And that's where value is created. Then they know exactly my job, which I'm doing right now, supports the bank in achieving the bottom line and the profit margins and so on and so forth. That creates a lot of motivation in individuals. So DFCC's stand is that AI or technology will not replace jobs, but it will recreate jobs which will add more value and more value to the organization as well as the individuals. And that is something that we are looking at.
Investors of today look beyond an institution's core mission, right? So even though you're in banking and financial services, they also want you to make, they're evaluating your ESG and how that impacts society in general. How are you gearing your workforce, your team, to sort of deliver on the bank's promise on the ESG front?
Super question. I think ESG is the new kid on the block. I think what ESG is doing is bringing that element of to be social responsible. I think initially we spoke about corporate social responsibility and so on and so forth. But this is at a different level itself. If you look at the reporting, S1, S2 reporting has come in, HR reporting has come in, and so on and so forth. So we were the first bank to publish the green bond in Sri Lanka. We're looking at...
Yes, and I think it's been listed in overseas exchanges as well.
In Luxembourg, we're listed it. In India also...
The GIFT City. Yes.
GIFT City also, we listed it. So there's multiple things that is very clearly evident that DFCC is going after. And we want to be the trendsetter in this area. And that is something that we do. And that also gives a lot of purpose for our employees to understand we are working for a bank which is also driving ESG, which is impacting community. And that is something also we use to motivate our employees, and that's something we differentiate ourselves. So green bonds, the blue bonds, you have the orange bonds coming in. So multiple types of things, and those are some of them. We have our own function, a separate team looking at ESG. We are also part of the Green Climate Fund. So we're doing a lot in and around ESG, because from this year, we have started reporting on S1 and S2. Multiple things are happening. DEI is coming under the social aspect of it. We are monitoring how fair pay, equal pay, gender balance, and I'm proud to say that we have a very healthy balance. It's about a 48-47 type of balance which we have on the gender and so on. So we are also making a lot of strides then, because those KPIs are also embedded. And as I did mention, ESG becomes one of our key pillars in the organization. So how we ring fence it with our people is we have continuous training which is done on ESG to the employees. How their roles impact socially, environmentally, and from a governance perspective, because that is also a very important factor that we are looking at. So yes, ESG has become a key cog in our overall bank, Imran.
Excellent. Final question, and it's about your role in the development of the country. You were born as a development bank, been around for 70 years, seen every crisis that we have gone through as a country. What will be DFCC's role in the future economic, renaissance and growth of this country? And how is your team, and when I say team, I mean entire workforce of DFCC, sort of being geared towards delivering on that mission?
I think the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, is our growth engine.
And they are 70% of the of companies in Sri
of the
Lanka.
company. And there are a few things that they also need. One is funding, one is consultative support, and those are two key elements that the bank is absolutely focused on those two areas. How do you start funding? How do you support them? Give them the consultative aspect of it. Our corporate teams, we have a separate SME team, MSME team who looks at all those that potential this thing, and we are supporting them to grow. And if the economy needs to grow, we need to create the SME function and support them to grow as we go on. And those will create a export potential and also employability for people, all those things.
Taxation for the government as well?
Exactly, taxation for the government. So we as a bank, we are focusing heavily on that. So growth in the SME, MSME sectors will support the country to grow. And that is an area that we have taken upon ourselves to see how that sectors to grow. That's number one. Number two is also from an ESG perspective. How do you support organizations in improving a carbon footprint? And that's where we start looking at all the credit points and so on and so forth, where we, even when we look at funding, we look at how we can support environment, social, and the governance aspect. Those are two key areas that we can. And whilst we hoping to become the employer of choice with all that flexibility and so on within the scope of thing, those I feel will help support Sri Lanka to have a much more steadier footprint from a global perspective as well as and a local perspective in supporting in building that economy.
Paduma Subasinghe, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Imran. It was nice being here.